champions. I hope everyone who is watching this video is doing super good, and my hair as always does so many things without my permission. Yes, so this time we are gonna solve the 8th question paper, my dear children, and it's not a small number. 8 question paper means high level of practice, right? So I'm really proud of everyone who is watching the videos continuously, who is practicing with us. Kudos to you. Okay, now let's begin with the questions without talking very much. So as I always say, how much marks does biology give you, my dear children? So everyone who has watched this video previously, you might be knowing. Okay, how much marks does biology give you? 30 marks. Okay, 80 marks is the total weightage of your science question paper. Out of that, 30 marks comes from biology. So this is not a small number. So we need to study. Now, section A consists of 1 marker question. We'll start with the 1 marker questions over here, that is MCQ questions. Okay, so in human beings, when the process of digestion is completed, the proteins, carbohydrates and the fats are finally converted into. They are asking you, what does these guys break down into? Okay, so you have proteins, you have fats and you have everything, right? So proteins, as far as I know, okay, as far as I know, the proteins are made up of amino acids. So obviously proteins would be broken down back to amino acids. What about carbohydrates? Carbohydrates will be broken down to the smallest unit, that is probably glucose or whatever it is made up of. Okay, there are other things also, but mostly glucose. Now fats, which are there, fat is getting broken down to what? Fat is made up of fatty acid and also glycerol. So sometimes people forget the glycerol part, they just remember fatty acid, they go just write that and come back. So please don't do that, please write fatty acid and glycerol. So in human beings, when the process of digestion is completed, the proteins, my dear children, is broken down to amino acids, okay, and the carbohydrates are broken down to glucose and the fats are broken down to fatty acids and glycerol. With that we get B as the correct answer. What is the correct answer? B is the correct answer. Going ahead with the next question. A plant growth inhibitor hormone which causes wilting of leaves is called. Wilting of leaves as in they're old, they are going to fall down now. Okay, so what is that inhibitor? Growth inhibitor hormone, okay, which causes wilting of leaves. So now you have 2 growth inhibiting hormones. I hope you know that. One is abscisic acid, ABA, and the other one is ethylene. Okay, I always remember abscisic acid, ABA. Abba, please help. So at the old age, no, we realize there is some superpower that is God, and probably at that point we turn our brain and we start praying. So basically this ABA, abscisic acid, which is there, it is the one responsible for making the plant old, the leaves to fall down and things like that. But that does not mean you should not be praying. You should be praying from now onwards itself. It's a very good deed. We praying for others, praying for us, praying for our family, for our friends, for the people we do not know. It's a good deed, so keep on doing it. Do not wait for old age. Yeah. So abscisic acid, my dear children, is a growth inhibiting hormone. We have 3 growth promoting hormones: auxin, gibberellin and cytokinin. And 2 growth inhibiting, one is abscisic acid, other one is ethylene. Abscisic acid is mentioned up over here, so we will say this is the answer. Cool. Chalo. Next question. The plants that can be raised by the method of vegetative propagation are vegetative propagation, as in asexual mode of reproduction in the case of plants. Okay, in sexual mode of reproduction, who is involved in the case of plants? Flowers are involved. So in flower you have male part and the female part when it fuses, basically things like that happens. So that's when you see sexual mode of reproduction. Now when flowers are not involved, you're talking about the stem producing or probably the roots producing or the leaves producing. Okay, you call this particular process as what? Vegetative propagation, my dear children. So basically this can happen naturally, or it can happen with the help of artificial sources. For example, we have 2 types of rose. We are cutting the rose plant and we are joining both of them, and now we are having hybrid rose plant over there, and they are going to reproduce again and again and again and again. So this is also vegetative propagation mode. This is artificial vegetative propagation, my dear children. So over here you are asked which type of plants produce. Okay, they reproduce by vegetative propagation. So I'll say there are 3 plants that you have to remember, which is sugarcane, rose and grapes. Sugarcane, okay, rose and grapes, all of them, they can be grown by cutting. So in cutting, what do? Basically you cut a region which has the node. Okay, and then you probably plant it somewhere else, and this particular region will be giving rise to the whole plant again. This is known as cutting. So sugarcane, rose as well as grapes, they all do what? Cutting. They can be propagated with the help of cutting. And grapes, if you say, it can be also propagated with one more thing, that is known as layering. What happens in layering? For example, this is a plant. Okay, it has too many branches and it has nodes and things like that. One branch I pull it and put it under the soil which have the nodes. From here a new plant will be arising since nodes are present over here. So that is also a method. This is known as what? Layering. So the answer for this question is what? Sugarcane, rose and grapes, my dear children. Cool? Now next thing, the part of seed which is source of food during germination of seed is. So in the seed, my dear children, if you know, you know. So usually there are two cotyledons. What do you call them? Cotyledons. Then there is a small region known as plumule and the other region which is known as radicle. So this is the radicle which gives rise to root. This is a plumule which gives rise to shoot, my dear children. So plumule and radicle is there, and apart from that you have cotyledon. You might have seen pea plant, okay, or basically chickpea. So it can be broken into two. So this is a storehouse of all the nutrients and stuff like that. What do you call them? Cotyledons. When the seed has two cotyledons, you call them dicots. When they have just one cotyledon, for example wheat and all, they just have one cotyledon, you call it monocot. So over here, the part of the seed which is a source of food during seed germination, when the seed germinates to give rise to plumule and then to a whole shoot and a whole root and things like that, what do you call? Who is the one who helps? It is known as cotyledon. Cool, easy. Chalo, next. The zygote is formed by the fusion of male and the female gamete. The number of chromosomes in the zygote of a human is. In normal cells, I always tell you how many chromosomes do we have? 46 number of chromosomes. Okay. In the germ cells, when the gametes are being formed, so you only give half the chromosomes to the germ cell. So half is there in the egg, that is in the female gamete, and half of it will be there in the male gamete, which is the sperm. Both of them, they come together and they give rise to 46 number of chromosomes up over here in the zygote. In the zygote, my dear children. Okay, so zygote is formed by the fusion of male gamete and a female gamete. The number of chromosomes in the zygote of the human is what, my dear children? 46. Okay, it will be 46. Cool? Chalo. Next thing. Assertion, reason question. So in the human heart, the ventricles have thicker muscular walls than atria. So I hope you know there are two atria, left atrium, right atrium. There is two ventricle, left ventricle, right ventricle. Okay. Now, basically what happens, left atrium will give the blood to left ventricle. Left ventricle is the one that will be providing it to the all body parts with the help of the blood vessels, that is aorta. Similarly, the right ventricle will be receiving blood from right atrium will be receiving blood from different body parts. It will go to the right ventricle, and the right ventricle will be the one that will be pushing up the blood to the lungs entirely. Okay, so why do you think the ventricles will be having thicker walls? Because they have to put lot of pressure, so that with this pressure only things will be moving to the body parts as well as the lungs, which is why ventricles have thicker muscular walls than atria. So this is correct. Now, the reason is ventricles have to pump the blood into various organs. This is also correct. So, can I say assertion and reason is correct and the reason is explaining the assertion? Yes, it is explaining, right? So, I will say A is the correct answer. Cool? Chalo. Next one. Assertion. Oxygen is essential for all aerobic forms of life. Aerobic as in the organisms which basically needs oxygen to survive. So, oxygen is essential for aerobic forms of life. That is true. Now, reason is that free oxygen atoms combine with molecular oxygen to form ozone. Free oxygen atom combines with oxygen molecule to form ozone. This is correct, but how can this be a reason? You said that assertion is oxygen is essential for all aerobic forms of life. Why is oxygen essential? Because oxygen helps in the breakdown of food, that is glucose, to produce energy. In this particular process, you need oxygen. That is why it is important. So, if reason was this, probably I would have said it is a good reason. But here the reason is entirely false. Sorry, the reason is not explaining anything. This is an entirely different statement. Obviously, oxygen atoms and oxygen molecules comes together to form ozone molecule, that is there. But this is nowhere explaining the assertion. So can I say assertion and reason both are true, but reason is not the correct explanation of assertion? Yes, that will be correct. So B is the answer for this. It is not the correct explanation. Cool. Chalo. Now section B. 2 marker questions, my dear children. So we need to water the soil in plants on a regular basis, but it ultimately reaches the leaves of the plant. Explain how this takes place. So we need to water the soil in the plants on a regular basis, but it ultimately reaches the leaves of the plant. Why? Because from the roots, my dear children, suppose this is a plant and there are roots and we are watering the soil, my dear children. So soil basically will be helping in taking up this H2O into the roots. Okay, from the soil the H2O has been taken up into the roots, okay, with the help of a process which is known as osmosis. So in osmosis what happens? The molecules, okay, the water or basically the solvent will be moving from a region of higher concentration, that is from here, to a region of lower concentration, that is within the roots. Now within the roots what do you have? You have an extra super tissue. Okay, you have got a very good tissue which is known as xylem, my dear children, which is known as xylem. So H2O is been taken up by the xylem and this xylem goes up. This xylem is totally supplied throughout the body parts. It will of the plant, okay, and it will be supplied over there. So the water molecules which gets in, no, okay, suppose this is a xylem vessel. And the water molecules which got in over here, they are kind of linked to each other with the help of cohesive forces. Cohesive forces. Okay, so there are cohesive force between the water molecules and there is adhesive force. There is adhesive force between the water molecule and the walls of the vessel. So what happens? It moves like this. Okay, now suppose there is a leaf over here. Suppose there is a leaf over here and from this leaf water molecules are constantly moving out because sun is there. Sun is causing transpiration. So what happens? This water molecules goes up, over here goes up. When this guy is being pulled outside, the other guy will be pulling the other guy up. So this thing goes up. So it goes like this. It goes on like this. Okay, so that is the whole process. Now over here there is an answer given. Let's just read out and then let's just go to the next question. Okay, so water reaches the leaves of the plant through a process known as transpirational pull and capillary action. What is capillary action? This is what I was saying. Okay, between the water molecules, the forces which are there. Now water is absorbed by root hairs from the soil through osmosis, as I told you. Now the absorbed water moves from the root cells to the xylem vessels through a process that is known as root pressure. Okay. Okay, through a process that is known as root pressure. What happens in root pressure is that I told you H2O gets inside. Okay, but why does the H2O get inside? The thing is, there are a lot of ions in the soil. The ions are taken first. So the plant is kind of greedy. It says that I want more and more ions. So it takes up more ions, and when it takes up more ions, it creates a hypertonic solution over there. Okay, situation over there where there are too many ions but too less water. So the water molecules will now come inside. And when the water molecules come inside, basically they are going to push each other upwards. The water molecules are there, they are going to push each other upwards. Okay, so that is what you mean by root pressure. So initial thing that helps is root pressure, which helps the water molecules to go up. Later on, when transpiration is happening, that also helps. So transpiration creates a pull, whereas root pressure creates a push. Okay, now xylem tissues transpose the water upwards to the stems and the leaves due to capillary action. Now the loss of water from the stomata in the leaves creates a transpirational pull that helps draw water upwards. Thus water moves to the plant in a continuous column from roots to the leaves. So this process is entirely correct. You have to follow each and every step of this. Cool? Chalo. Next. Name the type of nutrition exhibited by amoeba. Explain how food is taken in and digested by this particular organism. So basically, if you see amoeba, it's very funny. Okay, so amoeba, suppose it has food over here. So with the help of pseudopodia, with the help of the false feed that it has over here, it will try to engulf the food. Okay, and this particular process is known as ingestion. After ingesting it, okay, suppose this guy has now ingested the food which is right over here. Now there will be Okay, and this whole thing, the food is there inside a vacuole, and this vacuole is known as food vacuole, my dear children. Now there will be another organelle which is known as lysosome, my dear children, lysosome, which will be going and fusing with this food vacuole and releasing all the enzymes up here. So it has lots of hydrolytic enzyme. It will go and fuse and release all the enzymes such that the food is getting broken down. So the next step will be known as digestion. Next step is known as digestion. So now you have an amoeba which almost looks like this. So in the food vacuole, where you have all the hydrolytic enzymes and things like that, the food is now broken down. Okay, now whatever thing can be absorbed is absorbed, and this process is known as absorption. And absorption is there limited to cytoplasm. Things are getting absorbed into the cytoplasm, they do not have any other cells and things like that. So absorption takes place. After absorption, what takes place, my dear children? After absorption, so basically whatever things are being taken up, okay, suppose these things are being taken up. So whenever it is being utilized, okay, whenever these nutrients are going to be utilized, you are going to call this process as assimilation. Assimilation is basically using of the nutrients which are being absorbed. And after that what happens? The food vacuole which is there, it is going to go fuse with the membrane right there and remove all the unwanted things, and which is known as egestion. This particular process will be known as egestion. So what all steps do you have? You have ingestion first, then you have digestion. Ingestion happens with the help of pseudopodia. Then you have digestion where the lysozyme goes fuses with the food vacuole. Then you have what? Basically there will be absorption where the important nutrients, okay, which are being broken down will be taken up by the cytoplasm. This is absorption. And after that what happens, my dear children? Whatever nutrients are there, okay, whatever nutrients are there, whenever they are taken up, okay, used by the organism, you call this process assimilation. Later on, whatever unwanted stuff is there, it has been removed out with the process that is known as egestion. Cool. So this is the flow. So name the type of nutrition exhibited by amoeba, explain how food is taken in and digested by this organism. This is how it is being done. So amoeba exhibits holozoic nutrition. Holozoic as in a whole it is taking up things, which involves ingestion, digestion, absorption and assimilation of food. Now process of nutrition in amoeba goes like this. Ingestion. The amoeba takes in food by extending finger-like projections called pseudopodia which surround the food particle to form a food vacuole. Okay, it will be forming a food vacuole. Now, digestion is when enzymes are secreted into the food vacuole to break down complex food substances into what? Simpler things. Now, absorption. The digested food is absorbed directly into the cytoplasm. Whatever digested food is there, it is taken up by the cytoplasm, into the cytoplasm. Assimilation. The absorbed nutrients are used for growth. Whenever it is being used for growth, you call this process as what? Assimilation. Growth or any other thing. Okay. Now, egestion is when the undigested food which is there, it is expelled out of the body by rupturing of the cell membrane. As you can see over here, it is moved out. So, you have to draw each and every step and you have to show. So, please go through each and every step that is present over here. Please mark pseudopodia. It's a very important question, have been asked so many times, you should not be missing this. Cool? Chalo. Now, the survival of a species is promoted through creation of variations. Illustrate with an example. So, survival of a species is helpful, is promoted because of variations, my dear children. Is promoted with the help of variations. So, how do we explain this? So, you have two organisms. Okay, one has little changes in the DNA. The other one does not have any change in the DNA. For example, I have the change and you do not have the change. Okay. Now, some climatic change came in. I was able to survive because I had the variation, but you were not able to survive because you didn't have the variation. So in this way, don't you think the survival of the species is possible because of the variation which is there? Yes, my dear children. But how do you frame it in the form of an answer? You will frame it like this. So variations are what? First thing you have to tell that. Variations are differences in traits among individuals of species. They arise due to genetic mutations, recombination during reproduction or environmental factors. Now variation play a role in survival of species because they allow organisms to adapt to changing environmental condition. Example, peppered moth during industrial revolution. Before industrialization, light color moths were more common. If you do not want to write whole of this answer, my dear children, just write the bacteria as example and it's done. Bacteria 1 had the variation, bacteria 2 didn't have the variation. Bacteria 1 had the variation which allowed it to survive in hot environment, whereas bacteria B did not have, which is why one, at least since one individual was surviving the species, it could survive like that. Okay, it was making sure that the species is surviving. Now if you are going ahead with this option, okay, of writing the whole example, first of all, this is a 2-mark question. You should not be writing everything which is mentioned up over here. You get it? You have to be very careful with your answer. Now if you want to write this, I will tell you what is the story. So basically, this is before industrialization happened and this is after industrialization happened. So before industrialization, my dear children, since the air and everything was really good, okay, since the air and everything was really good, over here you will see the formation of lichens. Just give me a second. Just give me a... Okay, so you have lichens up over here. Okay, they are only going to grow only at the area where pollution is really less. At this point of time, and the lichens were white in color, my dear children. They were what? White in color. Now you had 2 moths. One moth, okay, you call them peppered moth, okay. Now what was there? One were white moths, my dear children. The other one were black moths. The other one which were there, which were black moths. So how will I show the black moth? I'll show with a dark color up here, probably this. Okay, this was the black moth. So what happened was, the white moth came over here and it was able to survive because the organisms which used to come and eat the moth, they were not able to spot it as it was having lichens, as the lichens was covering it up. Okay, as the lichens were covering it up, it was like that.
So basically I was talking about the story of the moth, right? And I'll tell you how mutations were that something that could help in the survival of the species, right? So let's see. So suppose there are 2 eras. One is pre-industrialization era, that is before industrialization and everything happened, and then there is post-industrialization era, my dear children. Okay, so before industrialization happened, the level of pollution was really less, which is why we could see the growth of something which is known as lichen on the plants. Okay, lichen is a combination of algae and fungi. So this combination was seen on all the plants, and these lichens gave a white appearance to the plants. The bark appeared to be really white because of this lichens. Now I'll tell you one more thing. After industrialization happened, since there was pollution and things like that, these lichens were not able to grow over there. Okay, these lichens were not able to grow over there. So I'll say it appeared like dark in color. The bark were just dark in color. And now we had 2 moths, my dear children. One is the white one, which is white in color. Okay, and the other one was the dark one, which was dark in color, right? Now, how did you get these 2 variations? How did you get these 2 variants? Because of mutations that might have happened. Okay, there were some mutations that have happened, which is why the color of this particular moth was different from this particular color. Why? Again, I am telling you, it's because of mutation, my dear children. Okay, that is how these variations happened. Now, the thing is, these moths which were there, they could easily stay up over here, but no one could sense that they were there. So they were kind of saved from all kind of, predators. The one who comes to eat it, no, so they were kind of saved from all those predators, my dear children. Whereas when you talk about the black moth, now if you think there's a white background, completely white background over here, and if I put a black something over here, if I put something black over here, it will be easily spotted, as you can see. So these guys were spotted and these guys were killed. So the level, or the basically number of white moth was increasing way too much. So they were in the first place, okay. They were in the first place, they were increasing their, number way too much because they were not spotted. Whereas when you talk about the dark moth, their rate was really less because they were staying in a contrasting background, and everyone, each and every predator which is there could catch them easily. So the white moth was like, I am ruling the world this time. But what happened after industrialization, as I said, the lichens were not there. Okay, the lichens which were not there. Okay, so now at this point of time, if something white comes and sits over here, don't you think it will be spotted easily? Don't you think it would be spotted easily? Yes. So they were spotted easily and they were getting killed. But what about the black moth? If I make something black over here, would you be able to spot it over here? No. So they were able to survive, but on the other hand, the white ones were not able to survive. So if I said, if this variation had not come, my dear children, so can I just say the moth would have just went away? We would not have got any trace of the moth because anyway they would have been killed. But since there is a variation and this variation helped them survive, which is why there was a continuation in the species of the moth, even though black, but still, yes, you get it. So this is an example. This is an example of natural selection. So naturally things are getting selected, and I'm telling you, lichens are not going to grow in pollution bit area. Why? Because they need a proper environment to grow. Otherwise, they will not be growing. So they are an indicator of pollution as well, lichens. So this is how the things work. So if you want, you can write the same thing. Before industrialization, light colored moths were more common because they blended with the light background bark of the trees, avoiding predators. During industrialization, soot from the factories darkened the tree bark, marking dark colored moths are more likely to survive. The variation in moth color allow the dark colored moths to adapt to the new environment and survive. Conclusion: variations provide a survival advantage under changing condition and ensure the continuity of species. So we do not know. Now we are staying in this environment. It could change any single time. In Los Angeles, you saw there are wildfires going on. Has anyone predicted it before? No. So that is the thing that I was saying. So anything can happen in the environment. So if variations are there, it could help us survive a bit better. Yeah, so I hope you know how to write the answer. Please write the answer in points. Do not write the answer in chunks like this. Okay. Now, section C is 3 marker questions. Now, the first question says, explain with the help of a label diagram the process of reproduction in hydra by budding. Name the cells used for reproduction of this particular process. So, I hope you know that. So, we have the hydra. Amma, why is it not coming up? So, I have kind of a bit cold, which is why a bit energy is down. But we are gonna learn something really cool. So this is the hydra guy. Now the hydra has tentacles, my dear children, which would help it sense things and also in catching prey and things like that. Okay, so this hydra is a whole thing. Now what happens? There are certain cells around its body. You call them regenerative cells. What do you call them? Regenerative cells, as in they have the property to regenerate their body. Okay, regenerate as in make again its body. That's the thing. So regenerative cells are the ones that would form small buds over here with small tentacles and stuff like that. These buds are soon gonna grow. Okay, they will grow in size and later will slowly detach from the parent body. Okay, they will slowly detach from the parent body. And how do you need to draw in one by one? So first thing that you show is buds, then you show that there's formation of tentacles, then you show that this bud is growing, and then you show detachment. Okay, so parent hydra, developing bud, new bud, and the new hydra is what you get. So hydra reproduces what? Asexually by budding, my dear children. Why asexually? Do you see any fusion of gametes over here, male and female gametes? No. So they are reproducing asexually, as in there is no fusion or fertilization of gametes, my dear children. Okay, so there are just certain cells which are just growing, dividing multiple times and just growing in size to form a bud. So a small outgrowth called a bud develops on the body of the hydra due to repeated mitotic division, as in they're just dividing to increase its number. Okay, the bud grows and develops tentacles and a mouth. Once fully mature, it detaches from the parent body and becomes an independent organism. Cell used for reproduction. Reproduction involves specialized generative cells, my dear children. Okay, there will be generative cells, as I told you already. Regenerative cells. Okay, now list 2 roles of each of the following in the human reproductive system. You have seminal vesicle and prostrate, oviduct and testis. You have to tell two roles. Can you say seminal vesicle, what does it do, my dear children? Seminal vesicle and prostrate gland, both of them are accessory glands. Accessory glands as in additional glands that you have. Okay, and what do they do? So you know, sperms are being produced by the testes, but these sperms cannot just move around alone. Okay, they need a fluidy media and they also need energy and things like that. So for that purpose, we have seminal vesicle and prostrate gland, which will give out the secretion. Seminal vesicle basically provides the sperms with fructose. Now fructose is a carbohydrate, so it's a source of energy for the sperm so that it can move properly. Okay, what about prostrate? Prostrate gland is the one that gives calcium and stuff like that. Okay, it provides calcium, again very much important for movement and also for fertilization to happen. So it provides calcium, it provides all the other secretions and secretion that could help the sperm move easily, okay, and things like that. So that is the role of seminal vesicle and prostate gland. Both of them are accessory glands, my dear children, which are found in male reproductive system. What about oviduct? Now oviduct is something that would, okay, the ovary releases the egg. Now oviduct is a place from where the egg will be transported. Okay, egg will be transported. So can I say it is a route for transportation of the egg? Yes. So that will be the first point. What about the second point? So oviduct is also a place where fertilization will be happening. So it's a route for what do you call it? Transportation. Apart from that, basically this oviduct is a spot where the egg and the sperm would finally meet for fertilization to happen. So that is also there. Okay, now what about testis? Testis is the primary sex organ in the case of males. So primary sex organ, why do you call it primary sex organ? Because it has two major functions. The primary functions of a sex organ, what it should be? It should be to it should be to help in the production of gametes. The second should be to help in the production of hormones. Okay, so for example, testis is something that help in the production of sperms, that is the gametes, okay, and also the male hormone which is known as androgens. Altogether you call them androgens. Now among them the famous one is testosterone, but yes, so you have two functions. First is the production of sperm, and the second one is the production of male sex hormone which is known as androgens. Now if androgens are not there, the male sex hormones are not there, the sperm production will also be hampered, and also there won't be any secondary sexual characters in the case of males as well. So these are the small functions that you have to remember. Please do not mug this up, okay? You have to understand the fact and then only you can remember it for a longer run. Cool? So I'll say this is the answer. Seminal vesicle secretes a fluid that is rich in sugars, that is fructose, which provides energy to the sperms, okay? The prostate gland secretes an alkaline fluid that neutralizes the acidic environment in the food, in the female reproductive, enhancing the sperm mobility and survival. So there's also one more point, okay? Apart from the calcium thingy, there's also one more point. Now, you know, in the female reproductive tract, everything is kind of acidic. Why? Because any foreign thing could enter their body, and to prevent that, to prevent any sort of infection, the pH is maintained to be little low, that is to be acidic in nature, so that in this acidic environment no other organisms could be probably living, which is why they maintain an acidic environment. But the sperm also, when they go, if there is an acidic environment, it could kill the sperm. So what do? They carry along with them an alkaline fluid. Okay, they carry along with them a basic fluid which could neutralize the effect of acid in the female reproductive tract, and they could survive there. So that is a use of prostate gland secretion apart from the production of calcium. Now, oviduct. The oviduct provides the site for fertilization where sperm meets the egg that is there, and it is also helping the transport of the fertilized egg to the uterus for implantation, or you can just say it helps in the transport of normal egg also, unfertilized egg also, towards the uterus. So you have to transport it there, then only it can meet the sperm, right? So that is one thing. Now we have testis. What does testis do? As I said, it's a primary sex organ, so it produces male gametes only through a process that is known as spermatogenesis. Apart from that, it secretes the hormone testosterone, which is an androgen. So androgen is altogether, we call it as a male sex hormone. Okay, under that you have different hormones. One is testosterone. Now this is responsible for the development of secondary sexual characters in males, such as facial hair and voice deepening and stuff like that. So all the points you have to write it. All the plans I have explained you as well. So just think about it and write it. So whenever I speak, don't be in that urge to write down your answers. Don't do that mistake ever. Always listen to the teacher. Whoever is teaching you, just listen to them. Later on, what you can do is, after a 15-minute gap, you can pause the video and you can think, okay, what did she or he say? And then probably write it down somewhere. Because now, when you're writing, you are not concentrating on what I'm saying. You just focused on, okay, you have to write, and probably in this way you might remember, is what you think. But this is not how it actually works. Okay, so please listen to me carefully, and then later on you can write it down. Now, list two differences between dominant traits and recessive traits. What percentage of pea plants in the F2 generation were with yellow seeds in Mendel's cross between the pea plants having yellow and green colored seeds? Okay, so instead of capital T and small t, they have taken what? Yellow, capital Y, and green, small y. Now, first thing you have to say is difference between dominant and recessive trait. So dominant one, it will only express itself. Okay, it can express itself in two conditions. What is the condition? In heterozygous condition, and also homozygous condition. What do I mean by that? Basically, if capital Y comes together, at this point it will be yellow for sure, because yellow is a dominant trait. If it comes like this also, this will be still dominant and it will be still yellow. So in both heterozygous and homozygous condition, you will be able to see the dominant trait. But what about the recessive trait, my dear children? Recessive traits do not express themselves in a heterozygous condition. So in this condition, do you think the recessive trait has been expressed? If it was expressed, then probably it would have been green, but it's not green. So can I say that recessive traits are expressed only in homozygous condition, as in, now it is small y, small y. In this condition, they are able to express themselves. Cool? So that is one thing. Now, if you're talking about, this is the answer that you have to give, okay? They are going to express only in homozygous condition, whereas they are going to express in both the conditions, okay? Now, okay, now you're talking about the yellow seeds with y and small y and y. Okay, so they are asking you about how many percentage of the pea plants in F2 generation will be with yellow seeds. That is a question. Now, if you have already done the capital T and small t, the tall and the dwarf experiment, you know in F2 generation 3:1 ratio you get, where 3 of them are tall and 1 of them will be dwarf. So here also, yellow being the dominant trait, I can say 3 of them will be yellow and 1 of them will be green in color. So can I say 30? It's 3, basically 3 plus 1, 4. If out of 4, 3 plants are basically yellow in color, can I say it's 75% of the plants which are yellow in color? Yes. But how do I prove it? I have to show it. So first thing that I do is make F1 generation. For that, I make the parents and then I have the gametes. Write it properly like this, okay? Then capital Y. Here I will get 2 type of gametes, capital Y, capital Y. Here I am going to get 2 type of gametes, that is small y, small y. When you cross this with this, you get capital Y, small y. When you cross this with this, again you get capital Y, small y. This with this, capital Y, small y. This with this, capital Y, small y. This will be the F1 generation, my dear student. And now how do you get the F2 generation? When you fuse 2 of them. Basically, when you do selfing. Just give me a second, my phone is not on silent and it might be a huge trouble. Yes. So, if I take capital Y, small y to be the parents, okay, now these are the parents. Now, in the gametes, what do I get? In the gametes, I have capital Y, small y, capital Y, and small y. If I fuse it, I get capital Y, capital Y. If I fuse this, I get capital Y, small y, again, capital Y, small y, and small y, small y. So, if we see, this is yellow because both the dominant traits are there. This is yellow again because there is in heterozygous condition, it's still dominant. And that one will be what? Green in color. So, can I say 3 of them are, let's say, yellow and 1 of them is green? As simple as that. So, this is how you have to frame the answer. Just go through it once and I'll come, okay? Okay. So, dominant traits are expressed in the presence of one or both the alleles, while recessive traits are expressed only when both the alleles are recessive. Dominant traits mask the expression of recessive traits. Percentage of yellow seeds, okay. Dominant traits mask the expression of recessivity, that is the second point, okay. Now, from here, you get the next part of the question. Percentage of yellow seeds in F2 generation of Mendel's cross between yellow seeded and green seeded plants. The ratio to yellow-green is 3:1. Percentage of yellow is 3/4 into 100 is equals to basically 75%. So, you have to make the cross and then only show, do not go right like this. Okay, you have to show the cross just like how I did. Okay, it's a 3-marker question, so make sure you're writing it properly. And you can mention heterozygous and homozygous condition, not like how they have mentioned. Dominant traits are expressed in the presence of one or both the alleles. So, basically heterozygous or homozygous condition, whereas recessive traits are expressed only in, let's say, homozygous condition. And also dominant one, when the dominant allele, whenever it's there, it will be masking, let's say, the recessive allele. Cool? Chalo. Okay. Now, 33rd question. Study the food chain below and answer. The first part is, name the type of ecosystem in food chain B and C. Okay, B and C. So, in B you have some plants. The plants are eaten by, grasshopper. Grasshopper is eaten by frog. Frog is eaten by snake. Snake is eaten by a vulture, probably anything like that. Okay, eagle. Not a vulture, but it's basically an eagle. Over here again you have a sea plant, and then you have a scorpion and been eaten by let's say fishes, and then a bird which is probably an aquatic bird that feeds on fishes, right? So, what are the 2 type of ecosystem that I can see over here? Can I say that this is a grassland ecosystem or grazing? I'll say it's a grassland ecosystem because you're starting away, you're starting with grass. So, I'll say it's a grassland ecosystem. But what about this? This will be an aquatic ecosystem, my dear children. This will be aquatic ecosystem. Now let's see. Okay, so this is okay. So this is not a okay. Fine. Okay, next question. Study the food chains below and answer. Name the type of ecosystem in food chain B and C. So over here you see cactus. Cactus is eaten up by grasshopper, and then frog, snake, and then a bird, probably eagle. Okay. Now over here you have an aquatic plant eaten up by scorpion or something like that, and then you have a fish, and then again an aquatic bird. Okay, which might be eating the fish. So how do you name them? Can I say that this is a desert ecosystem since you're starting with cactus? Yes. This is what? Desert ecosystem. Now what about this guy? This will be aquatic ecosystem. This is what? Aquatic ecosystem. Why? Because it's there in water, my dear children. So name the type of ecosystem in food chain B and C. It will be desert ecosystem, and this will be aquatic ecosystem. Now wire produces the first trophic level in all food chains. What percentage of solar energy do they capture for photosynthesis? So why do you think produces, as in the plants? Okay, why are they taking the first trophic level? Because can you go under the sun and take the sun's energy and prepare your own food? No, my dear children, we cannot prepare our own food using inorganic things. Using simple things, we cannot prepare our own food. We are dependent directly on food. Okay, we do not have the ability to make the food. I'm not talking about the cooking thing. Okay, basically from converting inorganic thing. For example, can I capture H2O and CO2 and prepare it to organic molecules like carbohydrates? No, I cannot do it. I can intake carbohydrates and break it down. That's the only thing that I can do. So they acquire the first trophic level. Why? Because plants are the ones that can basically capture sun's energy for preparation of their own food, and they can actually convert inorganic things to organic things. Okay, they can convert inorganic things to organic things. That is the reason. So why are producers the first trophic level in all the food chains? Because they have the ability to capture the sunlight, and second thing, they have the ability to convert inorganic things into organic compound, which we probably we cannot. Okay, now what percentage of solar energy do you think they capture for photosynthesis? So I'll say around up to 1 to 2% of solar energy, of the total solar energy, is what they capture for photosynthesis. Now this can be different in different books, but mostly it is this. Now why are the arrows in the food chain unidirectional? Why do you think it's going like this? Why cannot be like this also at times? Because, my dear children, the highest, obviously this guy is getting the highest amount of energy. Okay, so obviously this guy will be passing it to the other organisms. The organisms which have low energy, can they pass it down to the next organism? No. So we have a 10% law, okay, according to which only 10% of energy is passed from one trophic level to the next trophic level. So here from sun to the plant you got 1 to 2%. But from plant to the next organism you are just going to give 10%. Rest of the 90% of things, it will utilize it for itself, okay, like respiration, metabolism, whatever is there. And also some part of energy will be lost when going from one trophic level to the next trophic level. So there's a huge loss. Only 10% is given to the next trophic level, which is why obviously the other guy which has less energy, it cannot give back the energy. Otherwise the food chain will not be maintained. So how do you frame all these answers? So desert ecosystem for chain B and aquatic ecosystem for chain C. That is there. Okay, you have to spot which type of ecosystem is there. Now producers are autotrophs that convert solar energy into chemical energy. They capture 1% of solar energy for photosynthesis. Okay, so this is the thing that I was saying, that they are autotrophs. They prepare their own food and they convert what? Solar energy to chemical energy. That is sun's light into chemical energy, that is ATP. And they capture what? 1% of solar energy for photosynthesis. Arrows are unidirectional because energy flows from producers to higher trophic level and cannot flow back, as energy is lost as heat at each level, and also it is utilized for their own use. Okay, so for this answer you have to put 2 points. That is, they have the ability to capture the sunlight. Second thing, they have the ability to prepare their own food from inorganic content to make it into organic content. And also you can add up this point, they are the ones that can convert solar energy into chemical energy. And now this chemical energy can be passed from one trophic level to the next trophic level. Cool. So that is how you have to frame it. Now comes section D, that is 5-marker question. Okay. Define a reflex arc. Why have reflex arc evolved in animals? Trace the sequence of events when touching a hot object. Okay. what do you mean by reflex arc? For example, I am touching a hot pan. Over here, I am going to sense it with the help of my receptors at the tip, and then this receptors being active, we are going to send a signal to my spinal cord probably, and then I am going to react to it. That is, I am going to pull away my hand from it. So this whole pathway been taken up during a reflex action. This action is known as reflex action. Okay, is known as a reflex arc. The whole pathway that is taken up during a reflex action is known as reflex arc. Now, why have reflex arcs evolved in animals? Trace the sequence of the events when touching a hot object. So why have reflex arc evolved in animals, my dear children? For survival. Probably if reflex arc was not evolved, if I am keeping on touching on the hot pan, I will burn my hand and probably burn my body also later on. So it's for survival, that's what I can survive better, which is why the reflex arc has been evolved, which will save me from all these incidents. Okay, there will be a quick response. Now trace the sequence of events when touching a hot object. So how do I frame it? So first thing will be the stimulus, which is the hot object. Now, these are sensed by sensory receptors. Okay, there are sensory receptors which will be sensing it, and now it will be sending signal to the sensory neuron, the one that will be taking my information that something has happened in Jasmine's body. Okay, sensory neuron. Now, this sensory neuron will be going to the spinal cord, my dear children. It will be going to the spinal cord. Some information will be passed down to the brain also, but brain is not involved in this reflex action. Okay, brain just remembers that this kind of thing might have happened in our life. Okay, so spinal cord, no, inside it you have a neuron which is known as interneuron, or you also call it relay neuron. Okay, now from the relay neuron you send back the signal with the help of motor neuron. Motor neuron as in is the one that will be doing the actual function. Okay, so motor neuron will be going to the effector cells, going to the effector organ or cell, whatever it is. For example, my muscle cell, it will go there and say that you have to move, and then you will be showing a action response over there. So you have to remember sensory receptor, sensory neuron, interneuron or relay neuron, motor neuron. Okay, so sensory neuron is also known as efferent. Efferent A, start from A as in come, ah. Okay, efferent, and this one is known as efferent. It is exiting from the spinal cord. So it is efferent. So this is the pathway that you have to follow. Now name the part of the nervous system which helps in communication between the central nervous system and the other parts of the body. What are the two components of this system? So let's see over here. So reflex arc, when we talk about this, let's see the answer first and then we'll go to the next. So reflex arc is a neural pathway for an automatic response to stimuli evolved for quick protection that would help us in survival. Okay, please underline the word survival. That is why it is evolved. The sequence is what you have: stimulus, then you have sensory nerve, then spinal cord, then motor nerve, and then there is an action being produced over there. Cool. Now, name the part of the nervous system which helps in communication between the central nervous system and the other parts of the central nervous system, as in you have your brain and you have your spinal cord. Now, how do you think these organs, they coordinate with the rest of the body parts? Basically, there is a whole nerve system coming away from your brain and the spinal cord, which you call as peripheral nervous system. Okay, which we call as peripheral nervous system or PNS. Now, peripheral nervous system connects the central nervous system to other parts of the body, enabling communication and coordination. The PNS has two components. Somatic nervous system controls the voluntary actions like muscle movements, which you can be controlling. Okay, autonomic nervous system, which regulates involuntary action. You cannot control it. Okay, or basically I can say there are two types of, instead of writing this, I can just say there are two types of nerves. One is spinal nerves, which arises from my spinal cord, and there is cranial nerves, which will be arising from my cranium, or basically brain. Okay, you can write that also. And then probably if you can write about nervous system, if you want to write, you can write. Somatic nervous system, it controls the voluntary actions like muscle movement. Autonomous, as in it will be controlling something that is not under your control. Automatically it is happening. You can remember like that. So it regulates involuntary actions such as what? Heartbeat, digestion. Can you control your heartbeat? Like, I am not in a mood to make my heartbeat so fast. So let's stop it. Can you do that? No, it's not under your control. Okay. So today I am not even able to crack something up because I'm not pretty well. Yes. Yes. Now, B part of the question says, leaves of Chui Mui plant fold upon touch. Name the stimulus, explain the cause and state if growth is involved. Define geotropism and provide examples of positive and negative geotropism. So too many questions in one shot. Let's deal it one by one. Leaves of Chui Mui plant fold upon touch. Name the stimulus, explain the cause and state if growth is involved. So when you touch a touch me not plant, that is what they are asking. Touch me not plant is also known as Mimosa pudica or Mimosa pudica. Okay, when you touch it, okay, instantly the leaves close up. The leaves, they droop down, they close up. Now, are the leaves moving towards us? Are the leaves moving away from us? No, my dear children. So that means the direction of the response, which is there, that is closing of the leaves, has nothing to do with the direction of the stimulus. Okay, direction of the response has nothing to do. No contact. Okay, there is nothing to do with the direction of the stimulus. What is a stimulus? Basically, me touching the plant. Touch is the stimulus. Okay. Now, do you think the growth is involved over here? Do you think growth is involved, as in the plant is anyway growing when I am touching it or something like that? No, it has nothing to do with that. So, I will say this type of movements, first thing, where this is the condition, you call them as nastic movements. Okay, and here they are not growth movements. They are not growth movements, my dear children. Now, how do you define growth movements? So, growth movements comes under this category of tropic movements. So, geotropism or phototropism, everything are tropical movements. What is happening over there? For example, when you talk about geotropism itself, since that is given. So, gravity is the stimulus over here. So, if you have seen the root, okay, plant's root, they grow towards the gravity. Okay, they will be growing towards the gravity. So, can I say there's a growth involved? Yes, because they are growing it and they are moving towards it. So, can I say this as a positive geotropism? They are moving towards what? The gravity, that is a stimulus. Now, if you talk about the shoot, okay, the shoot which is there, it is actually moving away from the gravity, it moves upwards. So, can I say it shows negative geotropism, as in negative geotropism, it is moving against the gravity? Yes, I can say. Again, do you think a growth is involved? Yes, the shoot is growing upwards, the root is growing downwards. So, tropic movements, my dear children, they are growth movements. Okay, cool, works. Now, define geotropism in plants. What is meant by, okay, this is, okay, I think the question was repeated, which is why I was not able to. Okay, give one example of each type. So, as I said, you can give an example of positive geotropism as root and negative geotropism as shoot. So, let's see the answer. So, touch stimulus causes rapid movement in Chui Mui due to turgor pressure changes. No growth is involved. So, how is, okay, what is happening exactly is that in the Chui Mui plant or Mimosa pudica, the leaf has a small base which is known as pulvinous. Okay, it's a swollen base which is known as pulvinous, which has lots of water in it. So, when we touch, because of some ionic changes, because of some hormonal changes, what happens is that the pulvinous will lose its water, and when it loses water, it will be drooping down. That is the thing. So, basically, here the reason why it is folding is because of the turgor pressure changes. So, no growth is involved up there. When I talk about geotropism, directional growth is due to gravity. Roots show positive geotropism while shoots exhibit negative geotropism. Okay, shoots will be showing negative geotropism. Now, what do you mean by geotropism? Geotropism is a growth movement of plants in response to gravity. Positive geotropism occurs when a plant path grows in the direction of the gravitational pull, such as root growing downwards. Negative geotropism occurs when a plant grows against the gravitational pull. Example of positive, roots. Example of negative, shoots. Okay, so all the points that we discussed over here are there. Just you have to mention that these are tropical movements. The section E, which is the last section that we have over here, my dear children. So, in this is a 4-marker case study based question. Okay, now the kidneys are vital organs for survival. Describe the following. Name the artery bringing oxygenated blood to the kidney and the cluster of capillaries in the Bowman's capsule. Okay, that is the first question. You have to name the artery which is going to bring the oxygenated blood. Okay, then what is the name of the capillaries which is there in Bowman's capsule? So, I will show you the structure of a nephron, and then I will explain you this. Now, which organ stores urine? Is it actively controlling hormonally or nervously? So, there is a nervous control over there, or there is a hormonal control over there. We see that. Now, third one, list 2 major steps involved in urine formation and their functions as well. Okay. Now, where does selective reabsorption occur? What factors affect selective reabsorption? So, let's get started. Okay. My dear children, first thing, you have to know the structure of a nephron. I always say neuron. So here you have a cup-like thing which you call as Bowman's capsule. Okay, what do you call it? Bowman's capsule. So I'm going to make it like this. Now, there's a noodly thing over here. Okay. So this is your Bowman's capsule. Okay, and this is your proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal as in it is in proximity to this. And this will be your, okay, so there's a loop like this. And what do you call this loop as? You call this as loop of Henle or Henle's loop, either way. Okay, then again there will be a nodally shaped structure right over here. What do you call it? You will call it distal convoluted tubule. Okay, what do you call it? Distal convoluted tubule. And now this will be opening into collecting tube, which gets collection from other nephrons as well. Okay, now listen to me carefully. What happens is that in the kidney you have so many nephrons like this, and the kidney will be receiving the oxygenated blood with the help of a artery, a major artery which is known as renal artery. Now this renal artery has to supply oxygen to each and every part of the kidney, right? So it have to make branches, and one such branch is efferent arteriole. What do you call it? Efferent arteriole. Okay, this is a branch of renal artery. Now this artery again is going to sub-branch itself like this. There will be small branches, but again it will be opening up into another arteriole which is efferent arteriole. So it's same, it's continuing the arteries itself. Okay, it has not, usually what happens, the arteries open to form capillaries and then it forms vein. But here it's not the case. Here when efferent arteriole is there, it is making a bunch of capillaries in here in the Bowman's capsule, and then again it is forming what? It is grouping it up together to form efferent arteriole. Now this efferent arteriole will run throughout the body of the nephron like this, and it will be in connection with the veins also. Okay, it will be in connection with the veins. Now I'll tell you the story. First thing, you are asked about the bunch. First thing, you are asked about what is the artery that brings oxygenated blood. It is a renal artery. Okay, if you are asked about nephron, each nephron, it is efferent arteriole that is bringing oxygenated blood. Okay, now the name of the bunch of capillaries over here, you call them glomerulus. You call it what? Glomerulus. So what happens is that the blood is being pumped at very much force. Okay, there is too much force up over here, and because of this force, what happens? The capillaries, you know, they have small gaps in between that. So lots of things will be moving because of the pressure. Because of these gaps, lots of things will be moving into the Bowman's capsule. What are these lots of things? First thing, you have water, then you have glucose, you have amino acids. Okay, and then what? And then urea is there. Okay, urea is there, and there is ions. Now the only thing that your body definitely do not need is urea, but all the other things also came down. Why? Because it was under high pressure, because of high pressure of the blood, and the capillaries, they are very, they have small pores, which is why all of them, they came down into the Bowman's capsule. So the first step which is happening over here, you call it glomerular filtration, glomerular filtration, or you also call it ultrafiltration. So it is getting filtered. A lot of things are getting filtered. The proteins cannot come down. The blood cells which are there, okay, the bigger, huge blood cells, they cannot also come down. But all these small things, they come down. Now, the thing is, the only major waste that we have is urea. All the other things can be there in our body. No, if we do not want, we do not need it. So that is the case. So basically, what happens is that the nephron is given a choice. Okay, the nephron is given a choice. Still you have time. What you can do is, these arterioles which are running through, the blood vessels which are running through it, you can give certain very important things back to these arterioles as well. Okay, you can give them back. For example, your body is not having too much of a movement of water. Now, if you are going in this loop, then probably water will be removed out of your body. So, we do not want that to happen. We want some water to be retained. So, in this case, the water is selectively reabsorbed. What do you call it? Selectively, the water is reabsorbed. Or probably in your body, the ions are way too less. Potassium is way too less. You are feeling giddy and things like that. At this point, the ions will be taken. You do not have glucose. That will be taken up. So, that is the case. Where you are selectively reabsorbing certain things, you call this process as what? Selective reabsorption. You call this process as selective reabsorption, my dear children. This will be the second thing that would happen. Okay, the urea also sometimes taken up, but not way too much. It's very little amount of thing, and mostly happens in the proximal convoluted tubule. So those are two steps that we are having: glomerular filtration and selective reabsorption. These 2 points you can explain for urine formation thingy. Now going ahead, whatever is there in it, for example urea and a lot of ions and water is still there, it will move from here to here. There will be water absorption and things like that happening over here in loop of Henle. But when you reach here, distal convoluted tubule, again the blood vessels which are running around over here are given a choice that you can give back whatever is not needed by the body. Now the body feels that I had a medicine, okay, that medicine components is there which is not really good for me. I don't want it now anymore. At this point of time, it can be given back again to the nephron so that it can be removed from my body. Now this step, this is a third step, and what do you call this third step as? You call it as tubular secretion. What do you call it? Tubular secretion. Where it's not the tubules which are secreting, but still you say tubular secretion, because a lot of things which are still wanted to be removed out from my body are given from the blood vessels back to the convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule. So it can happen elsewhere also, but this is the major spot for it to happen. So this is tubular secretion. These are the 3 steps of urine formation. You have to explain just 2. Now the question is asked, on what basis is selective reabsorption happening? First thing, it happens on the basis of how much water content you already have in your body. If you have too much water content, then you do not need much amount of water. Okay, you would not be needing much amount of water. That is one thing. Second thing, how much ions you have in your body. For example, in the blood, there is too much ions. If there is too much ions, my dear children, it will create a hypertonic situation. Hypertonic condition, where the ions are way too much. Okay, that is one thing. So, on the basis of these 2 reasons, selective reabsorption takes place. On the basis of how much water you already, if you have already water, obviously the much water won't be taken up, it won't be reabsorbed. If you have too many ions in it, okay, if you have too much ions in it, obviously, since it's a hypertonic situation, you have to take in water to make it what? A normal equilibrium condition. You get it? So, that is being done. Apart from this, I don't think so many questions were asked, only these questions were asked, yeah? So, I have answered this and this. Now, which organ stores urine? It is actively controlled hormonally or nervously. So, under neural control or hormonal control? That is the question. So, basically, you have the kidney. Now, kidney have nephrons which will be filtering the blood, and then through the ureter, you have a pair of ureter, it will be passed down to the urinary bladder. And the urinary bladder is the one that will be storing the urine, and later this urine is moved out with the help of urethra. So now this particular thing that carries the urine or stores the urine is what? Urinary bladder. Now, is it actively controlled hormonally or nervously? It is mostly controlled nervously. It is not under, it's like partially under control, but mostly under the neuronal control which is there. Okay, so how do you frame the answer? Your urinary bladder stores urine and it's under nervous control. Direct answer. It's under nervous system controls. Okay, so in nervous also you have involuntary and voluntary thing. As I said, I can move my hand like this. Here I am thinking of it, which is why it's moving. So there is nerves obviously involved, but it's a voluntary action. I am able to control it. Similarly, urine also you can store it for some time, but sometimes goes out involuntarily. That is there. So basically, I'll just say it is under nervous system's control. Now, the name of the artery which carries oxygenated blood, that is renal artery, my dear children. Now, the bunch of capillaries, you call it glomerulus. It is a cluster of capillaries, filters blood in the Bowman's capsule. Now, the urinary bladder stores this. Now, ultrafiltration, the steps of urine formation. One is ultrafiltration. So, the blood pressure filters filters water, salt and urea into the nephron. Selective reabsorption is the second step, where essential nutrients and water are reabsorbed into the bloodstream. These are the two steps involved in urine formation. The third one is tubular secretion. Now, on what basis is selective reabsorption dependent on? So, selective reabsorption occurs in the PCT and DCT, that is proximal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubule. Water reabsorption is affected by ADH level. There is a hormone, antidiuretic hormone. That means it does not want our body to lose lot of water. So, it is anti-diuretic hormone. So, hydration state of a human being and also salt concentration, as in you're talking about iron concentration. As I said, if iron concentration way too much, you need to reabsorb a lot of water. If hydration state is low, you need to reabsorb water. If it is too less, too high, you don't want water. And also the hormone, the whatever antidiuretic hormone which is there, it also matches this. Now, if you do not write antidiuretic hormone, it's fine. Even if you write, it's fine. Okay, and with this we have completed sample paper 8. I'm so sorry for low energy today, but I have completed all the questions, okay, with utmost detail, so you can just write it down in the exam, just like how I have explained you. Write it in points and underline the important points. So that's all, my dear children. Have a happy day and study hard, and you're gonna ace it. Whatever happens, we're all there with you. Just ask your doubts in the comment section. We'll help you out. Okay, so bye bye, take care, and do not forget to subscribe to our little channel, that is Deeksha Vedantu.